The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So thrilled to be here with you on this Thursday morning. I'm going to be honest, this week is a little bit different and today's a little bit different. Normally we have two guests that we love to share with you on the show, Dr. Adele Nadowski and Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, and we don't have either one of them today. I'm so sorry, and some of you have been writing in specifically with questions for them. They will be here next week. Next week is one of those weeks when we will have both of them at the same time in the second hour of the show. But I do apologize that neither one of them could be with us today. We do have a special birthday greeting for Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. But if you think, oh no, there goes the show, we don't have anything exciting, I just got to say to you, three guests on the show today, two of whom are on the autism spectrum. And they're pretty fabulous. One that's a bit of a surprise that we did not put on our weekly notice that I'm not going to tell you about till later, but it's a big surprise. It's the first time that this person has been on the show live, but they have been on the show probably more than anybody else but me, and certainly discussed more on the show than anybody else, but he has never been on the show before live. If that doesn't give you some hints as to who it is, stick around. It'll be in the very end of the show today that we have a very special interview. I'm very excited about it. In any case, we are going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective, hoping to get you to the good stuff. You know, whatever the obstacles are that are preventing you from getting the progress to getting to the good stuff, we want to work that out. And sometimes that means different things for different people, right? But it does not matter to us whether you are a parent, teacher, practitioner, aunt, uncle, cousin down the street. If you love somebody on the autism spectrum or you yourself are on the autism spectrum, we want to help you to get to that progress that you so richly deserve. We want to help to hook you up to resources so that you can figure out what your next step is, which is going to be different than mine, different than the person sitting to the left of you, but nonetheless important, right? So this entire show is meant to be interactive. We really enjoy it when you guys participate with us. As I said, some of you have already written in questions for our doctors who aren't here today, but we'll bank those for next week. But we do love it when you participate. Truly love that. Somebody did write in this morning already and said, hey, Shannon, I'm the person who wrote in about eating organic on a budget, and you had mentioned you would be discussing it, I believe, on Tuesday. I missed the Tuesday show, but I don't see it on the playlist or on YouTube. Was this discussed? Where can I find the show? And thanks for your help. Well, we didn't do a show on Tuesday for a very good reason. I started some new medicine and it did not agree with me. So we were unable to do a show on Tuesday. But that's okay because it means you didn't miss it. We're going to do it today. So stick around for that. That's coming up a little bit later. But again, we do love it when you guys participate. Kelby's going to show you some of the different ways that you can. I'm going to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. So much to do on that page. Please sign up for our email list. We really love being able to notify you when something's going on. And also on that page, you could be watching the live show, or you can watch the most recently recorded live show, or you can click on the playlist and watch any of the shows that we've done in the past on that homepage. Now, to the side of where the video plays is a series of white boxes, and the one that says your question, if you put your cursor inside that box and start typing, when you hit enter, it will show up here on my screen after a short, like minute and a half lag. So I do encourage you to write in early in a segment so that we get an opportunity to see your questions. So often I see it after we're done with the segment. So write in early. Keep in mind a couple of things. It's totally free, and it really is. You put your cursor there, you type, and you hit enter. There's no username, there's no password, there's no login. There's no asking for a credit card or your personal information or making you come up with 32 password keys that you have to remember the nickname of your first dog. We just don't do that here, right? Because who can remember that? But the good news is that we won't know who you are, where you came from, and anything else about you, right? Total anonymity and totally free. Bad news is that if we need to get back to you with some more information, we don't have a way to do that. So if it's something you know specifically, like you're asking for a study, or you say, I need the link to this, can you write back? Please include some way for us to get back in touch with you. We will not share that with the audience at home. We know how important it is that you maintain your anonymity, so you can ask whatever question you want to ask, right? That's important to us. All right, but it's totally free. Please use it. And by the way, please use that feature and tell other people about it. If you're going to support groups or you're someplace, you're at the park and somebody says, I have questions and I don't know who to ask, let them know that we're here. We are, I always refer to us as the little show that could. We have grown by such leaps and bounds, and we're always trying to build our viewership for two reasons. Because we know that we have help and support for an audience, and we want to find that audience and have them find us. But also, I got to be honest, we have to be able to keep the lights on. And everybody, whenever we talk about, how do we raise funds for the little show that could, people encourage us to have this be by subscription only, and have people have to pay a fee and have to give their credit card number, all of which I am so opposed to. But it does mean that we count on sponsors to underwrite us. And the larger the audience we have, the more opportunity there is for underwriters to sponsor us, and then the more programming we can do. So help us out, connect us with more of your audience. We really appreciate that. All right. We don't want to do a pledge drive. I don't want to have anything to do with that. I love NPR, but I really don't love the pledge drive, right? Okay, so I do like to remind you at the start of the show that while we do have many experts on, I am not one of them. I am an autism mom, a very proud autism mom. And my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He is now 11. There's a possibility that you'll even know more about him before this show is over. And maybe in a format that you've never seen before. Hints, hints, right? But I am so grateful for all the help and support that we got and in the interventions that we got. And we found the different things that we did that were successful for us, we found them because somebody told us about them, and because we heard about them from other parents, and had some access to resources because of where we lived, which is why it's so important to me to be here to hook you up with resources and share what the people that we meet in doing this show have to share. But don't be confused. I am not an expert in autism, and I don't ever want anybody to forget that. I am such a student in a desk where it comes to autism, and proud to be a student learning about autism, so that I can not only help my child, but if I can help one other person, say 5 minutes and $5, man, I feel like my purpose here is fulfilled on a daily basis. So that's my little shtick about that. But it's time to move on, because the way we start every show is with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out, what are we talking about here? What is this all about? So today's jargon, it's the first time that we've ever included this in the jargon. We're talking about the dirty dozen and the clean 15. What exactly is this? So our actual definition for Dirty Dozen Clean 15, it's the Environmental Working Group's yearly list of pesticide ratings for fresh produce. And we've got the link there for you, but basically if you go to www.ewg.org, that stands for Environmental Working Group. They're an amazing group of people. Ken Cook, who is the leader for that website, I've heard him speak, and it's life-changing. They rate a bunch of different things, like if you want to know about cosmetics and what's a little bit cleaner to put on your body, great site to go to. They also have household cleaning products, but they're really famous for their Dirty Dozen Clean 15. And why is this an important thing? Well, I put a quote here from their website. In 2012, the American Academy of Pediatrics, which is a pretty important group that tends to be a little bit mainstream, right? They're very cautious about what they say with good reason, right? They issued a policy statement that said that children that have, all children have, quote unquote, unique susceptibilities to pesticide residues and the potential toxicity. The report cited research that linked pesticide exposures in early life and pediatric cancers, decreased cognition function, and behavioral problems. Okay, so that's got to send a red flag up for any of you that deal with anybody who's on the autism spectrum, right? It's like, what you talking about, Willis, right? Let's take a look at our actual definition here of Dirty Dozen Clean 15. It's an easy to follow list that prioritizes which items you should buy organic. There have been a couple of different studies that have come out, and we're going to talk more about this a little bit later on the show when we get into how are you organic on a budget. But I don't know about you, I always used to think, well, organic is a lovely thing for the environment, and it's better for the environment, and it's better for the groundwater, and I want to participate when I can, but I don't want to spend a lot more money on organic because, you know, a lot of times on the news they say it's not any healthier for an individual. It's than buying the conventional produce. It's really just better for the environment. And I want to be a good person, and I want to care about the environment, and it's on my list of things to do. But I also got to keep a roof over the head, and especially when I got a kid with autism. Groceries are expensive enough. Do I really need to pay that extra 20 cents, 30 cents, or $3 a pound more? And that was sort of where my head was with it. I was like, when it's an opportunity and there's just a small price margin, I'm going to up it and go for the thing that's organic. Then I found out about the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, and it flipped that entire equation on its head for me. Because what they do, and this comes out every single year, they will test produce, and they test it from a wide variety of different sources to identify how many pesticides and the level of toxicity that is in them. And they put it on a rating scale showing what has the most pesticides and is more likely to have pesticide residue on it, and what is the least likely to. So instead of going by what the price difference is on something in the store, you're going off the idea of, I want to invest my money in things where I'm going to see a bang for my buck. For instance, you know, I used to look at edamame in the grocery store, at frozen edamame in particular, and it would have the one that was conventionally grown, and maybe it was $1.49 for the bag of it that was frozen. And then I would look at the organic one, and it was only 10 cents more. Why not? Why not spend the money on that? It's a no-brainer, right? When in fact, if I were to look at the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 and it changes every year, I might find that honestly, the one that's conventionally grown probably is just as clean as the organic one. But something like the sweet red pepper that I'm looking at so longingly in the fresh produce aisle, and I look at it conventionally grown and it's 99 cents a pound, which is still not cheap, right? But I look at the organic one and it's $3.99 a pound, and I think, whoa, what's up with that? I'm not spending $4 a pound for a pepper. That's just crazy talk, right? Except when you look at the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen Clean 15, that pepper that's conventionally grown is on the Dirty Dozen list. It has more pesticides than I want to put in my body in a month in that one pepper. and that if I really want to put a pepper in my body, I really want to think of investing that much. Maybe I'm not going to get peppers as often. Maybe I'm going to get fewer peppers, but if I'm going to buy a pepper, I really want to invest in the one that is organically grown. And I maintain, I know studies have shown that there's no better taste, there's no higher vitamin content. There are just as many studies that have shown the exact opposite. And I believe firmly, in my house, we've done taste tests side by side. I can tell when I'm eating something that isn't organic if I'm at somebody else's house. It tastes better. Do your own tests, but for me, it tastes better. So Dirty Dozen Clean 15, you can put that into Google in your phone when you're at the grocery store if you can't remember. And a little bit later on the show, we're going to talk about for 2015 what's actually on the Dirty Dozen list and what's actually on the Clean 15. And it really is a great way of deciding, where am I going to spend my money? Where is it going to be useful for me to spend my money so that I'm getting the lowest pesticide load into my body and into my family's body. And we'll talk a little bit later on about why that's super duper important from what all of the research is telling us, especially if you have a child who has any kind of ADD, ADHD symptoms. You really want to be lowering that pesticide load. It becomes a little bit more critical when you've got those kind of symptoms, but health-wise and for reducing the possibility of cancer, it's important for all of us to reduce that load, and certainly for our environment, it's incredibly imperative that we reduce the amount of pesticide that's in our food. Dirty Dozen Clean 15, it can tell you how to spend your money on a budget. All right, now moving on, we always have a question of the day for you. Our question today is, what is your best tip for making ends meet? How do you save money in a way that's productive and useful? I have friends who are so good at the coupon thing and can go into a grocery store and get their bill less than half of what it would have been if they'd gone in without a coupon. And I'm always impressed with that. I don't know that I necessarily have the time always to invest in that kind of behavior, but I've got some other tips up my sleeve that help to make ends meet. We'd love to hear from you guys on Facebook. What do you do? What's your trick or tip that helps reduce the overall cost so you've got more money to spend on other things? And it could be for anything. The tip that I've got is about your cable bill, and I'll share that with you a little bit later on. So write in on our Facebook and tell us. I want to check in on that a little bit later on. All right, we always have a topic of the week. We're at the end of the week, but our topic for this week is the economics of parenting ASD kids. It's expensive to raise a kid, no matter, if they're typically developing, right? But when your child is on the autism spectrum, you're going to have some additional costs. And those costs change with time. We're seeing more and more of you are having a copay situation that can be debilitating, right? And the cost of food is expensive. And when you add on that you want to do it organic and you've got maybe some food allergies, or you're trying a specific diet that has restrictions on certain things, it can get expensive. A loaf of gluten-free bread is easily twice what a loaf of non-gluten-free bread is. It's interesting because, you really want to say, why is that so much more expensive when a lot of the ingredients they're using are less expensive? I think of it as highway robbery sometimes, but it doesn't change the fact that it is. So how do we manage it? How do we take on the economics of parenting ASD kids? We're going to talk about that a little bit today. Some of my guests for you today, though. We did a lot of moving things around this week, and our guests were so sweet working around my different health issues. But we are going to show you in just a couple of minutes. Dr. Stephen Shore is an amazing gentleman on the spectrum. He is a college professor, the author of the book Beyond the Wall. He joined us on Monday. He sat down with us and we did a really wonderful interview talking about some of the different things that he does in his life, and then talking about the idea of being a self-advocate and when do you disclose. It's It's an interview that I have not been able to stop thinking about all week long. I'm so excited to finally be at the day where we can share it with you. And then in the next hour, a wonderful guest that we had planned for Tuesday, and she was so sweet about being able to postpone and rearrange her schedule so that she can be with us today. Mari Nozal, a wonderful autism parent, avid blogger, and a beautiful writer, is going to talk with us a little bit about some of the experiences she's had recently. How, a lot of times an autism parent will take time off to be at home for the intervention that their child goes through. And what's it like when it's time to return to the workforce? Mari's got some stories for us, and I know I found it really difficult to return to the workforce. The workforce and the general public doesn't usually go, wow, look at that amazing thing that you did with your family and your child. We want to count that as an experience and reward you diligently for your diligence in taking care of your child. Should be that way, but it isn't. So we're going to talk about some ways that you can circumvent that. And then, of course, eating organic on a shoestring budget. And I have a very special guest right at the end of the show that is here with us today and is going to be making his first, see, I'm giving you more hints, his first live appearance on the show. But he is on the show every single day and uppermost in my mind always when we're here. Can you guess who it is? I'm very excited and a little nervous about who is going to be on the show. It's right at the end of the show. So I promised you two individuals who are on the autism spectrum. Both are male. You'll see. I'm going to give you more hints as the show goes on. So are we taking a break first? Or are we going right to Dr. Stephen Shore? All right, it's time. Kelby says it's time. I want you to take a look at this beautiful interview. It's in two segments. Dr. Stephen Shore. Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so excited because we have joining us via Skype Dr. Stephen Shore. I'm sure that if you're a member of the autism community, you've definitely heard of Dr. Stephen Shore before. He is a prolific writer. He is a speaker. He is a professor. And Dr. Shore, we're so thrilled to have you here with us this morning. Let's start with talking about, you teach at Adelphi University. What is it that you teach there?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I teach courses mostly in autism and some special ed in general. So I have 4 courses that I teach that relate directly to autism. One of them is an introductory course. The next one focuses on diagnosis and intervention. And then the following 2 courses focuses on developing skills in communication, social interaction, and accessing the strengths of individuals on the autism spectrum. And throughout our courses, we focus on a lifespan approach.
And this is something that you have a really interesting viewpoint on, because as a child, you were diagnosed with autism or with autism tendencies.
Well, I was diagnosed. The best they could get in those days was atypical development, which I think roughly correlates to what we used to call PDD-NOS, strong autistic tendencies, and child psychosis. That was the bag of diagnosis I got.
Interesting. And so how old were you when you got that diagnosis?
I got diagnosed at 2.5. I was struck by what I call the autism bomb, otherwise known as regressive autism, at 18 months, and it took my parents a whole year to find a place for diagnosis.
Wow, but even, back in those days, that's pretty remarkable that they were able to get a diagnosis within a year. We hear of so many people not getting a diagnosis for a decade, which is often devastating. But I'm curious, Dr. Shore, what kinds of treatments did you go through at an early age?
Well, the treatment was mostly with my parents in the beginning. At 2.5, when I got my diagnosis, the doctor said they never had seen a child who was so sick or so severe. And fortunately, my parents refuted the professional's recommendations for institutionalization. And they eventually convinced the school to take me in about a year. And it was during that year that my parents implemented what we would today refer to as an intensive home-based early intervention program, emphasizing music, movement, sensory integration, narration, and imitation.
And these are all things that continue to you talk about all these things. In fact, music is a big part of what you've brought to the autism community. Talk to us a little bit about when you're teaching your classes, how you include the idea of using music.
Oh, sure. Well, what I do is I look at the idea of including music in the same way that we might develop accommodations for any other subject. And I believe that the importance of music is that whatever seems to scramble the speech centers of the brain seems to leave the musical ones intact. So as a result, there are times when we see people on the autism spectrum excelling in music and also the other arts, I want to include them as well, where they may not have much success anywhere else. And at this time, what I do is, in the music arena, I specialize in giving music lessons to people on the autism spectrum and also holding workshops for music teachers so that they may also be able to include individuals with autism.
I think that that's really fascinating. If somebody was interested in taking one of those classes because they want to be working with kids who are on the autism spectrum, maybe they're already a music teacher or thinking about becoming a music teacher, how would they find out more information, Dr. Shore?
Well, I would encourage them to contact me through my website, which is www.autismasperger.net. And if you lose the website address, if you type my name and the word autism after it in Google, my website will pop up pretty quickly.
And it's a really wonderful, in-depth website. There's lots of good information on there. I want to turn a little bit now to some of the writings that you've done, some of the books that you have out. Maybe if we could talk first about living along the autism spectrum. What does it mean to have autism or Asperger's syndrome, which you co-wrote with Daniel Gottlieb. Tell us a little bit about that book.
Oh, sure. And actually what we're talking about is a DVD. And this is my latest publication. It's a three-way conversation between myself, where I talk about what life is like on the autism spectrum. Robert Nassif is a father of an adult son with autism, so he takes the father's viewpoint. And then Dan Gottlieb sort of interviews us Larry King style, and he has a grandson on the autism spectrum. So it's quite an interesting conversation.
Interesting. I thought this was a book. It's a DVD. That sounds really exciting to me, to be able to sit and watch the three of you have a conversation. I'm sure it's fascinating.
Yeah, we found it very fascinating.
And where can people get that? Well, I want to get this DVD. Where do I get it?
Oh, sure. Go back to my website, www.autismasperger.net, and you'll find it right there on the home page.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about understanding autism for dummies.
Oh, sure. We're going in reverse chronological order.
It was on your website in that order. That's why I'm going in that order.
All right. Well, that's great. Understanding Autism for Dummies. I was approached by Wiley Publishers to co-author that book. And at first I wasn't too thrilled about the name. But then I realized that we were not calling people with autism dummies, but it was sort of a goof off at calling everybody else, you might say dummies, people who want to learn more about it. And it's part of a well-known series. I think it was the 1153rd book in that series. And my goal for that book was to bring unbiased information about autism to the community in an easy-to-read format.
I think what a wonderful idea, and I think what a great gift to give to some of the people in our lives, not to call them dummies, but I think there's still a lot of people that have no idea what autism is, and to have a starting point maybe for a family member who is curious and asking questions and wants a really easy way to access that information. I think it's a great idea. I promised that we were going to talk about Beyond the Wall, so talk to us about that. You've got a new edition out of Beyond the Wall. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, that's right. Beyond the Wall is my autobiography, and my goal for this autobiography, as it is with many of my presentations, is to use an autobiographical structure in which to talk about educating children on the autism spectrum, exploring sensory issues and developing accommodations, giving music lessons to children on the autism spectrum as well, and also the all-important navigation, or I should say successful navigation of transition to adulthood, where issues such as self-advocacy, relationships, employment, continuing education, and just about everything else that you can think of that's involved in the adult world, we need to be preparing people on the autism spectrum for as well.
Absolutely. And again, they can get that book if they visit your website, autismasperger.net, correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Now, I want to continue talking with you about another book, Ask and Tell, and about the idea of self-advocacy, but I want to take a short break first. So let's take a break, and then we're going to come back with more of Dr. Shore, Dr. Stephen Shore, talking with us about self-advocacy and whether or not to disclose whether someone has autism. So stick with us.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to Talk of Facts. We hear questions all the time, and we want to give you the answers that help make your journey in autism easier and more navigatable. Less than a year ago, we interviewed the top 100 doctors in the United States working with children on the spectrum, and we asked them a question in the cloak of secrecy. What are the top 3 mistakes parents living with autism do? Number 1, and the one that makes me laugh the most, is when they use their physician as a marriage and family therapist. 1, the doctors told me it made them uncomfortable, and 2, they were highly unqualified to provide that type of advice. So the night before your physician appointment with your MAPS doctor, get together with your spouse, significant other, and write out the list of the targets and the agenda that you want to cover at the physician's appointment. Get in sync. Then you'll be definitely spending less time and not making that doctor so uncomfortable. Second thing that was the most common mistakes parents living with autism make is they want to go too fast. And really, you want to pace yourself in the autism journey. We all know that we want to get our kid to be the best they can be and hopefully recover from autism. And what a lot of the doctors have told me is that you want to really pace yourself. 1, to let the labs be your guide. And 2, work with your physician on the prioritization and the delivery of the different medical interventions. The third most common mistake they felt families made was giving up too soon. And what you need to know is they're invested. They're looking at wanting to get the best from your child. But I tell you that when I got that and consolidated the 100 interviews with these physicians, most of the doctors who brought that up had tears in their eyes. They want you to know that they're in the fight with you, and they want you to know that hope is really real. It may take hard work and it may take time, but to not give up and to stay in the game. So let Talk of help you. We'll have some more Talk of facts for you in the future, real questions and real answers for the autism journey.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have with us via Skype Dr. Stephen Shore. He is an author and a wonderful inspiration. In fact, Dr. Shore, you were named one of the 10 most inspirational people on the autism spectrum in the last 10 years by Autism Speaks this last week. So we have to say congratulations to you.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it was quite a surprise seeing that. I actually found out, learned that from a posting that Amy Gravino made on Facebook, because she was also named.
Yes.
And so it was quite a surprise and quite an honor to be on that list and to be, as I said, hanging out with a number of my friends and people who I have yet to know.
I think it was very well deserved. And we know Amy. Amy's been a friend of the show and been on our show before as well, a wonderful young woman. But we were talking before about some of the books that you have written. And I want to talk about Ask and Tell, self-advocacy and disclosure for people on the autism spectrum. But before we get into that, we just discovered over the break that you're going to be joining a lot of us here in the Los Angeles area on May 20th for a very special event that's going to be happening, a very musical event we found out last week, Friends of Temple Grandin, where James Durbin is also going to be performing, and you're going to be there as well.
That's right. I'll be performing with the other musicians and artists, and I'm looking forward to a great time.
Well, we're looking forward to it as well, and that's on May 20th. We'll be talking more about that event as the weeks pass. We just had Temple Grandin with us last week, and we had mentioned it then, but we'll be letting people know more about that as it gets closer. It's shaping up to be a star-studded event, and I'm thrilled to know that you're going to be there. So let's talk a little bit about Ask and Tell and the idea of self-advocacy. Tell us a little bit about the book first, and then I'd really love to get your opinion about a couple of different things that, as I was saying during the break, people tend to have very strong opinions about self-advocacy and disclosure. So let's start with the book. Tell us about what's in that book.
Oh, sure. Well, the genesis of the book was that I had noticed that there was no education and very little even conversation about self-advocacy for people on the autism spectrum. So as a result, I convened a number of self-advocates, all on the autism spectrum, and we held an entire day pre-conference at an Autism Society of America conference. And the preparation for that pre-conference was to form the foundation of the people who were involved in this workshop. It formed the foundation for their contributions to the book. So what the book is 6 people, all on the autism spectrum, who give their take on the importance of self-advocacy and how it can be done effectively.
Okay. So, and you were mentioning that self-advocacy and disclosure, if you're advocating for yourself, just the sheer process of doing that, you're disclosing your diagnosis. So how do you feel about first disclosure? Do you feel like it's something, how has it been in your life? Do you disclose to people? When do you disclose? How do you do that? And how have you found it to be?
Yes, well, these are very important questions. And in order to properly advocate for oneself, one has to know how autism affects you as an individual. So that means building a foundation of, you might say, disclosure to the individual that they do have autism, and this is what it means to them, this is how it affects them. Once there is this understanding, the person on the autism spectrum is now empowered to engage in a 3-step process for advocacy. And the first step is what might be called scanning the environment. So in other words, where in the environment do you see potential challenges? So for example, myself, a challenge for me is recessed lighting, sometimes known as down light. So the lights that are recessed in the ceiling and they point down. Standing or sitting under one of these lights is like looking into a spotlight, probably for most other people. So one, I keep aware of where these lights are and try to keep away from them. However, sometimes that's not always possible. And then comes the second step, which is the advocacy effort. So, for example, I might say to my supervisor, these lights are really bright. I wonder if I might wear a hat at work. Or if I'm sitting with a friend at a restaurant, I wonder if we might be able to change seats at the table or perhaps move to another table. So the advocacy effort has to be done in a way that somebody else can understand and provide support. And then the third step is the disclosure piece, because if you're going to ask for greater mutual understanding, if you're asking for a modification in the environment, you have to provide a reason why. And therein comes the choice of a full disclosure or a partial disclosure. So most of the time I would go for a partial disclosure and say, I have really sensitive eyes. These lights give me a headache, rather than going for the entire diagnosis, which would be a full disclosure. So often the question comes, when is it appropriate to advocate and disclose? And I believe that if the effect of having autism, such as the visual sensitivity that I just talked about, significantly impacts a situation or a relationship, then it is time to consider developing a plan for advocacy. If it doesn't affect the situation, then there's no reason to disclose or to advocate.
Well, it's all sounds so much easier when you put it that way. And I know, and I think your examples were just really wonderful, Dr. Shore. I think when a lot of us hear the term self advocates, it has started to come to mean individuals, and it shouldn't, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but I think sometimes it now comes with this stigma of the fact that it's individuals who are not always advocates for therapies. And I see this happening in the autism community, and I'm really concerned about it as a parent because my son's growing. He's 11 and a half now. And I know that already he's starting to say to me, Mom, you know, when you talk about this, I would rather you talk about it in these terms. And I want to hear that.
Sure.
Who better to tell me how I should be talking about autism than individuals who are on the autism spectrum? And I really feel very passionately that we need to honor our self-advocates, but I feel like the community is getting into this place where it feels like we're at odds on a regular basis. And I wonder if you see that happening as well, and if you have any words of wisdom for the parents so that we can get on a page where we're more accepting of what our advocates are telling us.
Oh, sure. I think sometimes what is important to make sure that we remember is that for those of us who are on the spectrum, for those of us who are parents, educators, doctors, therapists, or anybody involved in supporting a person with autism, I think everybody can agree that we want to reduce suffering.
Yes.
And so, for example, if a person with autism has such sensory issues that they cannot bear to remain in their skin, that person cannot attend most classes at a university, they cannot go into a supermarket, they cannot engage in many of the activities of life, then something needs to be done about that. Another example, we have many people on the spectrum who have such gastrointestinal issues that nothing's going to happen until we fix that. And it's not fixing the person with autism because the person with autism isn't broken, but it might be addressing something that relates to the digestive system. It might be adjusting the sensory system through occupational therapy. And the goal is of intervention, whether it's sensory, whether it's educational, whether it's biomedical, is to help the person be the best person on the autism spectrum that they can be, because autism is here to stay. It's not something that can be removed or eliminated or cured. I don't think it's even a good idea to do that. But what we do need to do is help people be as productive and successful, lead meaningful lives as possible as a person on the autism spectrum.
I can't agree more. I want to go back to something you said, though, because I think it's where the heart of the controversy is. That the idea of being able to help an individual with symptoms that they're having versus eradicating the autism. And I think certainly as a parent, it's taken me a lot of years to understand the difference between the two. That when your child is throwing themselves on the floor and hitting themselves on the kitchen floor, and a doctor says to you, well, your child has autism, I think you immediately go to the place of, oh, my son is hitting his head against the kitchen floor because of the autism. It took me probably 3 years to figure out, no, the autism wasn't making him hit his head against the floor. His frustration due to some of the things that were happening that he didn't know, that was partially because the autism was preventing him from learning things in the way that we were teaching it. Not that he couldn't learn it, but that we were teaching it in a way that he couldn't get it. That frustration was making him hit the floor. But that took me 3 years to get to. And I think a lot of parents are still on that space where they're thinking, my child is behaving in this way that's causing suffering because of the autism. As somebody who teaches about autism, what do you want to say to those parents?
Well, I think the thing we need to do is to do what we can to understand autism, understand how autism affects people, talking to those of us on the autism spectrum, spectrum for firsthand experience and to do what we can to help that person with autism lead a fulfilling and productive life. The potential of people with autism is just like the potential of everybody else. It's unlimited.
Yeah. And I know we're pre-taping this segment, so parents aren't able to write in and ask questions, but I know that somebody would want to ask of you, Dr. Shore, if you're, because we see you as parents and we go, oh, look at how wonderful your life appears to be. But they're going to want to know, are you happy? Do you have a full life? Do you feel like you're being held back in any way because of autism?
Yeah, well, those are very good questions. I feel that I lead a fulfilling and productive life. I'm married to a wonderful woman, and we are going to celebrate our 25th anniversary in the next month or two. I enjoy what I'm doing, and that is teaching about autism. And sure, there are still challenges of autism that I face today, some of them relating to sensory issues, others such as difficulty in remembering faces, which can be a challenge, especially as a college professor where it's a good idea to know who your students are. And sometimes dealing with subtle social situations, such as office politics or mixed messages in general. So the challenges of autism do remain, and I think one of the important keys to achieving a fulfilling and productive life is to remain in your areas of strength. And that probably holds for everybody, whether they have autism or not.
Well, Dr. Shore, again, I think you were so worthy of getting one of the most 10 inspirational people in the last 10 years on the autism spectrum. You inspire us. I can't wait for our audience to be able to see this interview. There will probably be some questions afterwards. Would it be okay if there were questions if I forward those to you?
Yeah, you can certainly forward the questions to me, or they're welcome to email me through my website.
And let's tell them what the website is again.
Okay, one more time for the website. It's www.autismasperger.net. And if you forget, then the URL to the website, if you type in my name, Stephen Shore, that's spelled with a PH, and the word autism after it, then my website will pop up pretty quickly on Google. And likewise, if you do the same on YouTube, there's a number of videos.
Wonderful. And we should mention that people can get the DVD or any of the books by going to that site as well, and that you are available as a speaker. If somebody wants to book you for their organization, they can do that through the website as well, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So far, I haven't counted the number of presentations that I've given so far, but I do know that I have only 4 states left in the United States to visit for presenting, and I've presented in 39 countries across 6 continents.
Well, you're definitely inspirational, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the event on May 20th here at the Nokia Theater, the Temple Grandin and Friends musical event, where I'm looking forward to seeing you perform. I think that'll be wonderful.
Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting you in real life.
Yes, me as well. All right. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, Dr. Shore.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
What a wonderful and inspirational gentleman. A thrill to be able to talk with him. All right, we're going to take a break and be back with more Autism Live after these messages.
Well, today is the One Hope Act Today for Military Families 10K and 5K Run, Walk, and Family Fun Festival.
Thanks for coming out to support this awesome cause.
What I'm trying to accomplish here is to get more people involved, more people to be aware of autism as a disorder so that they can be more involved in this effort to help people find resources.
Pull that belly button in, get a nice balance there.
This is an incredible event. I'm very passionate about it. Autism is affecting so many kids across the United States, and I also support our military.
2, 3, 4. My name's Gunnery Sergeant Sean Tajma. working with the School of Infantry West. I'm currently running with 1st Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. I personally involved with this because my son Jacob has autism. I just want to say thanks to ACT Today for what they're doing to help my family and other military families with autism.
Here we go. Let's hear it for the 2nd Light Infantry.
Some of the main sponsors here. Of course, One Hope Wine is the title sponsor.
What we do is we donate 50% of our profits back to different partner charities, one of them being ACT Today that does a fantastic job.
ACT Today is very dear to my heart because when my husband was deployed, they were there when we didn't know how we were going to make things happen. They give so much to the military family, and it comes at a time when you just don't know how you're going to make ends meet. So to me, it's more than just an event, and it's more than just a grant. It's a gift.
All right, you guys, have we gone over the road?
Thank you all to the teams, to the individuals that donated to this fantastic cause out here again this year. The event got larger.
People ask me why military families with autism. Why does ACT Today have that as a special program? I'll tell you why. Because our military families should not have to fight two battles. One, to protect our country, and another to get services for their children. They move so often. Every time they move, they have to start again. We owe it to them. And it just was a tremendous success. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for taking part in it.
Check this out, Marine. See all these wonderful people? All you gotta do next year, Marine, Devil Dog, 200, sign up with me, staff or an email, and I'm gonna take you out here, do a little 5K, little PT early in the morning. After that, you got the time of your life. After that, I might even be able to get you a letter of appreciation, maybe a little libo time. How's that sound?
Sign up for next year because this is an event that comes on and on. It's a win-win situation here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. It's time, I've been promising it. We're going to talk about how can you go organic on a budget. First of all, we want to, most important, we want to stay flexible. Little changes make a big, big difference. Don't get into your head, well, all right, we're going to go organic, which means we're going to cold turkey anything that's conventional. We're never, ever going to eat any place that doesn't have organic, right? You really want to think about lowering your pesticide load. What's the best you can do today with the circumstances that you have, including the money that's in your bank account and in your pocket, right? Don't spend so much money that you can't afford to keep the roof over your head, right? Stay incredibly flexible. There's more and more restaurants that are offering and featuring organic produce. So you can take a look, Google it, and see there are many different restaurant apps that one of the different features that you can put into search by is having organic produce. So let that help guide your choices, but for your sake, especially in the beginning, don't start saying, well, I'm not going to eat at this restaurant because everything isn't organic or nothing is organic. You want to definitely take a look at what meat choices that are out there and know that when it comes to meat, organic is great if you can afford it. It really is. It's a wonderful thing. But there are a lot of responsible meat companies that are a little bit short of organic. I can think of Mary's Chicken as a perfect example. There are many stores that carry Mary's Chicken. It's air-chilled chicken and of the highest quality that you can find out all about. They're very open about their practices that they do. And if you look at their organic, it's top of the line, right? But their conventional is so close that it's still money well spent. It's going to be a little bit more expensive than going and buying chicken someplace else, but really worthwhile, great taste. And, you can make the decision between the organic and the other. It's not going to be that big of a choice. You definitely want to be thinking about GMOs while you are shopping for organic. I heard one of the most horrifying things earlier last year on NPR where they were talking about GMOs. This is genetically modified foods. And they had a gentleman on the broadcast who was talking about how he has different crops in different fields. He's a farmer and he supplies non-GMO food to a wide variety of sources that make cereals, both for the United States and abroad. And he said, it's more expensive when we do the non-GMO food. And he was asked why, and he said, well, for instance, the non-GMO stuff just takes a lot more pesticide. And I went, what? He goes, yeah, because, in order to get the yield, we have to dump a lot more pesticide on it, and that's more expensive. So be careful that, a lot of us are going to the store and saying, oh, it's non-GMO, great. I'm going to pay more money for that. Be careful, because what you might be getting is a bunch more pesticide dumped on top of it. So if you're going to buy something that's non-GMO, make sure that it's organic as well. Consider your grain choices really, really carefully. We heard a lot about rice. If it's from anywhere in the United States other than California, sometimes you're going to have a higher level of pesticides. So consider carefully where you're getting your grain sourced from. And prices will always reflect market trends. So make sure that you're looking at everything, keeping up on what's happening, because it does change over time which products are more important that we stay organic, right? And whenever possible, talk organic. If you're in a grocery store and you're not seeing the product that you need, make sure that you ask the person that's on the floor. If you have the opportunity to talk to a manager, some places have little cards that you can fill out. Write down what you want. I know that at places at Costco and other big warehouse stores like that they count how many requests they get for organic food, and that drives what they go and purchase. You will see that a lot more of those products have come to market because people keep asking. So add fuel to that fire. Talk organic whenever you're in a store. Let the people who work there know how much you care about organic, and then you will see more products. And we've already seen the more organic products they carry, the lower the price point goes, okay? So it's a win-win. You'll have more to choose from, and it'll be less expensive. Okay, so let's talk about why organic. And we talked a little bit earlier in the show that in 2012, the American Academy of Pediatrics issued a policy statement, and they cited research that linked pesticide exposure in early life and to pediatric cancer, decreased cognitive function, and behavioral problems. If you look in depth at some of the studies that they have done on different pesticides, one in particular in 2012 that came out about organophosphates, it very clearly showed a link between the amount of pesticide that somebody ingested, and we're talking about young kids, teenagers, the amount of pesticide that they ingested, and then what came out of their body. They tested their urine to see the organophosphate that came out of their body and their levels of attention, whether they would have hyperactive activity, and they saw that the more organophosphate that they ingested and the more that eliminated from them, the higher their behaviors that were demonstrating a lack of attention and a lack of ability to focus. And that warranted more study. There have been more studies. Oddly enough, all of a sudden, there are a bunch of other pesticides that are there now instead of organophosphates. So we made some progress by getting that study, but not enough. I really honestly believe, and after my family saw that study, we went organic, and I saw a big difference in myself and a big difference in my son. Our ability to focus on something changed significantly. So Another time we'll go into exactly what a pesticide does. For so long, I thought that a pesticide killed a bug. Pesticide kill the bug? It doesn't. It disrupts their neurotransmitters. And in a bug that's very tiny, it doesn't take a whole lot of pesticide to do that. The first thing that it will do is make their legs move endlessly so that they can't focus on eating. And eventually it makes their legs move so much that they become frozen. That's what it does to a bug. And we know that children have smaller bodies. What is it doing to them? The research is showing to us that it can have some negative effects on their neurotransmitters. Okay, so we definitely want to do organic, but it's important that we set the priorities. Maybe we can't afford, most of us can't afford to be completely organic, and it would be hard to do it, especially at different times of the year. So we refer to the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 from the Environmental Working Group, but it's important that you check the list every single year. It changes from year to year. So let's take a look. I hope on this next slide, oh yes, it's the Dirty Dozen +2 for 2015. So these are the things that if at all possible, you want to limit having these in your diet unless they are organically grown. Apples, #1 offender. Peaches, nectarines, strawberries, grapes, celery, spinach, sweet bell peppers, cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, snap peas that are imported, potatoes. Those are our Dirty Dozen for 2015, but they have added for this year hot peppers, kale, and collard greens. Now, I just talked to you about organophosphates. That has been all but eliminated from our American diet, except in conventionally grown kale and collard greens. And the amount of organophosphates that they found on kale was enough to make you shake in your shoes. So you absolutely want to be buying organic kale and collard greens. We know that kale is a really vitamin-rich, wonderful plant to put into our bodies, but don't make the mistake of buying it conventionally. These are the items that you're going to invest in getting organic, and that might mean that you have less of them in your diet, but it really is worthwhile when you look at the number and the amount of pesticide on these items. It really would put fear into you. So I know, and you might look at this list and go, this is everything that my child eats. Well, I understand, but look at what the similarities are in all of these things. They're very thin-skinned, which means if it's doused in pesticide, it's going to ingest it. And then you're going to be putting it in your body or putting it in your child's body. I would encourage you as much as possible. Maybe every once in a while, we were at something last week and they had apples, and I was fairly certain that they weren't organic, but I let my son have one. And if he has, 5 of them in a year, that's to me a lot. But it's that thing. We started with be flexible, right? But think of lowering the pesticide amount as much as possible. All right, now let's look at the flip side of this. Let's look at the Clean 15. These are the things that when you're in the grocery store and you see it side by side, conventionally and organically grown, you can really get either one because it's not going to make a huge difference to the pesticide load. Save your money here to spend it on those Dirty Dozen. Avocados, sweet corn. This used to be on the Dirty Dozen and now it's not anymore. Pineapples. Think about these all tend to have a more of a shell, right? Cabbage, sweet frozen peas have less of a pesticide load. Onions, asparagus, mangoes, papaya, kiwi, eggplant, grapefruit, cantaloupe, cauliflower, and sweet potatoes. These are all things that you really don't need to invest in the organic unless you can afford it. A better way of staying organic on a budget. So some tricks for being able to circumvent and say, well, I want to get those cherry tomatoes and I can't afford the organic ones that are at the market. How am I going to do this? Well, I encourage you to buy from your local farmer's market. Find out where the closest farmer market is, and at the same time, you're supporting growers that you know. Organic can be expensive, and not all of the farmers at the farmer's market are going to have the money to be able to go organic, but have the conversation with them and say, what are you using? How are you doing this? What you'll find is that there are a lot lot of farmers who are doing sustainable grow and aren't using pesticides, but they haven't been able to afford. It takes 10 years of having inspectors come out to be able to go organic in some states. So you might find that they're not using the pesticide on it, but they don't qualify for the organic label, and still you're getting the really good, healthy produce. So have a conversation with them. It's enjoyable to eat fresh picked produce. If you haven't been to a farmer's market and tasted the difference between if it's been shipped for 5 days to get to the grocery store and then you try it at the farmer's market, oh my gosh, it's a whole different experience, right? And in supporting those growers, you'll find that you build a relationship. It's great for you. It's great for your kid. You can say to them in planting season, hey, have you ever thought about this? I'd really love to get this particular variety. Like, I love white eggplant. Oh my gosh, it's just my favorite thing. I can't get it at the grocery store. And I now at my farmer's market have a couple of farmers that they've put in a couple of white eggplant plants because they know I'm going to buy it and they'll bring it for me. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. You can also, if you can't get to the farmer's market, many places around the country now, search it in your area. There are farmer co-ops that you can buy into that every week you get a box of what's fresh that's delivered right to your doorstep. And it's organic. So something to do. That can be expensive depending on where you are, but it's a really great thing to do if you don't have a whole lot of time. Make sure another way to save money is to buy what's in season. Check those weekly flyers, and they all of the stores now have a little section that'll tell you what's on sale organic. But even if you don't have the flyer, when you go to the store, notice what they've got a whole big bin of and what the price points are. A lot of times now they're buying them directly from a farmer that's local because they like to advertise that. And if they don't do it at the grocery store, you can do that without going to the farmer's market. When you go to the farmer's market, you can talk about who are the farmers. Is there some place where I can go pick? You can buy directly from the farmer and make it easy. But if you can't, do it at the store. Buy from the farmer at the store. A lot of times it's the cheapest thing that's there. It's what's fresh. And if you have the opportunity, if you're somebody who's got a little bit of homesteader in you and you are interested in canning or freezing, every year, right around my birthday, we go to a wonderful organic peach farm and we buy a big bin of peaches. It's $40. They're organic, they're certified organic, and we bring them home. For the longest time I was trying to can them and it was too much energy. And then they taught me how to get a Ziploc freezer bag. You wash the peaches off, turn them upside down, let them dry overnight, and then you pack them into the Ziploc bags. You put them into the freezer and you take them out one at a time and eat them in the winter, let them thaw or heat them up. They're amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And that those organic peaches, that $40 worth of organic peaches lasts us most of the winter and is such a great treat. And I know that I'm getting organic and so much cheaper than if I had bought it and in cans or fresh, oh, heaven forbid, in the middle of the winter, how much that would be. Okay, you can also, though, buy frozen. I mentioned Sam's and Costco. They carry a wide variety of frozen organic produce. I go to Costco now and I get a big bag of green beans that lasts us forever and a big thing of organic broccoli. It's fabulous. I know I'm not going to be wasting. I can use only what I need, and it's very inexpensive during the winter months when it's hard to get fresh produce. Stores often offer specials. There are certain times of the year where you can get organic along with everything else on sale. So really be watching the sales. And this is a key time to be utilizing coupons in the winter months to be able to get that produce, the frozen produce, at a discount. A lot of times they have coupons in different stores. Moving on, grow your own. This is another great project to do for the family. Consider your bang for your buck. A couple of years ago, I planted a bunch of carrots because I just wanted to have some organic carrots, and it was all really expensive, really time-consuming project, and I had a bunch of teeny-weeny little carrots that were such a pain in the neck to even peel. Not that you really had to because they were organically grown, but I remember getting the whole family. My mother visited, and we're taking care of these little itty-bitty carrots so that we cooked them and got one bowl of carrots. And my mother said, you could have bought organic carrots for $1.29. we could have done something else with this day, right? So consider what's the most expensive thing that you could, that you could buy at the store that you could grow at home before you start planting things. Factor in all of the costs and the sweat equity that it would take you to grow it, and then get the whole family involved. Don't do it by yourself, but make sure that you buy organic seeds or plants. If we're going to take the time and the money to grow it organically yourself, do it with organic seeds to start with. All right, all of these things together, you should be able to eat organic and have a wonderful, wonderful meal. I think you're going to find it tastes spectacular. Organic on a budget, it's doable. It takes a little bit of forethought, though. All right, we're going to take a break now and go to the A Word, ongoing documentary being made by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy, Jack Riley, diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. Take a look. This is the A Word.
Great and awful.
Yeah, it's great progress and it's hard to get used to. Last Friday was rough for him. At the end of the second week, he had a rough. I think every session was rough for him.
He's doing really well. Like I held up a green marker to him last night and asked him what color, and he said green.
Yeah,
no prompting.
Unprompted.
And
Black,
did the same thing.
black and blue and green. He's doing okay.
The fact that he'll say colors without us telling him first, that's huge. But
He's trying to say everything.
It is.
He tries to say tangled.
Oh yeah.
He says cars really well, of course.
You say tangled? Tangled.
Oh yeah.
You say Bambi?
Oh baby! Baby's fun. I'm excited that he's talking so much.
He's got a lot to say these days.
Aww.
Say red. Good, sorry.
Red is always hard for him, so that's awesome. He usually just says bleh for red. He'll just vocalize something.
Just do whatever comes out.
They like it when I say something, so I'll say something.
And he's so quick to do it now.
You want the doll? Oh, she's pretty. Kiss her. Give her kisses.
Aww.
The clinic is where therapists come on the team together, as well as the supervisors and the parents and the child. And it's a great way to talk about his progress, and if parents have concerns about the programs that we're doing or problem behaviors that come up, it's just a great way for us to have communication with each other and be on the same page so we're consistent with everybody that's involved, parents, therapists, and supervisors. Oh, you found it. What is that?
Oh no.
What is it? Guitar, yeah?
Guitar.
So we're having him man for things, meaning we're having him request for things, and if he knows the label, we're having him say the label. So, I mean, approximations are okay, but as long as he's asking us for something, instead of having us just give it to him, so that requires him to talk even more. Which book do you want? Which one? Mickey book? Whoa! Do you want the Mickey book or the Thomas book? Which one? Jack Riley? No. Hey, kiddo. Which one? Thomas book or Mickey book? No. Which one, Jack Riley? No. Do you want the guitar? Guitar? Yeah? Okay. All right. That's okay. Here. Look. Look. We're going to show Suzanne that you know what a car is. Okay? Here. Touch car. Good. What is it? It's car. Okay, what is it? Good job. Good job, kiddo. You gotta look better though, okay? Let's sit up and look at it. There we go. Wow, you gonna show Suzanne the car?
Vroom, vroom.
Touch car. Good. What is it? What is it? Say car. Good. What is it? Good job. Oh, that's Suzanne.
Hi.
Hold on.
You want a tea?
You can't see yourself. You gotta be on the other side, silly. Woohoo! See? Do you see yourself? Yeah. Wow. Oh. Really? Yeah. He's doing a lot of talking by himself. No way. I know. He wants to have a conversation so badly today. I know. I know. You got a lot to say today. How else do you feel? Huh? How else do you feel today? Do you feel happy? Touch car. Good job. What is it? Car. Very good. Say, look, Dad, I did it. I did it.
Good job.
No?
What are you calling that? If you say touch the thing in your hand.
Oh, what we're doing is we're having one of the objects is one of the labels that we want, which is car, which is what we're working on, and we have a distractor. So we want to see the object that we're focusing on with something else to see if you actually can discriminate between the two. So I mean, so our goal is just to see if you can pick the right object, basically. Touch. Hold on. Touch. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay. Ready? Okay. Touch car. No. Try again. Try again. Okay. Okay. Last one. Last one. Touch car. Yeah, touch it though. Touch car. Good. What is it? What is this? What is this? Yes, car. Okay. Someone helping him this out? Okay. Yeah. Hi. That's the first time I've seen him really say hi. Well, he's very interested with
Did he just say hi?
Yeah. He said hi.
He did.
And he looked at the camera and he's like,
No, he doesn't. That's seriously.
I've never seen him
heard
say
him
hi to
say hi.
anybody, which is that's like the first thing we wanted to say to our families. Is that we say hi. He says bye bye.
Okay, come on, buddy.
let's go. Go, Dad.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest joining us via Skype right now is Mari Nosal. She is an amazing mom, a blogger, an author. She also has a BA in psychology and a master's degree in educational foundations. So she's a wonderful resource and an autism mom. Mari, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you so much for rescheduling with us. You were such a trooper. We were planned originally to talk with you on Tuesday, and you allowed us to reschedule, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you for having me.
We're thrilled to have you, and I want to let everybody know about your blog, which is Taking the Dis Out of Disabled, and they can find that at MNOSAL49 at WordPress.com. And, you know, I had seen your blog before, but a couple of weeks ago, you had a blog in particular that caught my eye because you were talking about the difficulties that a parent sometimes encounters after having taken time away from everything else to be a part of their child's intervention and to really dig in and do the thing that's truly honorable. And it's quite an education when you're involved in a child's intervention. And then a couple of years go by and you think, all right, I need to get back to the workforce market because I got to help to support my family. And it's a bit of a cold shower. And I wondered if we could talk about that a little bit and why you wrote a blog about this.
Sure. Do you want me to start at the beginning when they were younger?
Sure.
And I was doing night jobs?
Yes, talk about it all.
All right. What happened is I have my younger son who was originally diagnosed with ADD in second grade. Back then, they really didn't know what Asperger's was. It was not in the DSM-IV3. Then it was diagnosed put in the DSM-IV4. And then it was put in the DSM-5 under the umbrella with autism spectrum disorder. It was very common back then for them to get diagnosed at 13 or even older. People just did not know what it was. So I was trying to fight to get him services. I knew he had more wrong with him than ADD. And at the same time, my older son had medical issues that took up a great deal of time, and he needed supervision as well. So what I did is...
So you had your hands full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you do is your kids come first. I took night jobs, double overnight shifts in group homes as a detox counselor, whatever worked, so I could work an opposite schedule from my husband. But they were low-paying jobs, and when my kids got older and they got a little stabilized, I wanted to go back and help other people. So I went back and got my BA in psychology, and I got my master's in ed, with the total goal of going out and advocating for other families who walk the same road as I did.
Yeah, yeah.
And I assumed, you know, I had all this background experience bringing them up. I would go back to school, and the jobs at the grad level would be there. Well, I found out very quickly that they do not take the experience of parents who have special needs children very seriously when you go out in the workforce.
No, it's a frightening thing. And even when you factor in having all that additional education, you would think that everybody would be interested in hiring you because first information, doing it at home, but also you've got these advanced degrees. You would think that you would be the most qualified person, but it's all often counted against you the time that you took to be with your kids, and I think that's across the board for women in general. But it's particularly poignant for those of us who have special needs kids and took the time and had to get educated to do it, that it's counted against us. But you have now overcome this, Mari?
In the midst of doing it, what I would like to tell parents is never to give up. And it is a very humbling experience when you walk in there and your interviewer doesn't take your background seriously because there was not a paycheck attached to it. Even though if you did the very same thing in a job and showed it on a resume, they would take it seriously. Like a mediator, therapist. So what I decided to do was prove them wrong. If they didn't believe that I could do the job, I would go out and develop a way to prove to them that I could do it, make a name for myself. So I started blogging, I started advocating, and as I started doing that, they started noticing me and inviting me in to do public speaking and realizing what I was capable of doing.
Yeah. I think it's an important lesson for everybody, and I had shared with you the other day when we had a conversation about this via email, that I was so frightened when we got to a point. I was doing work out of my home. That was the way that I figured out how to have my son at home and doing therapy, was that I started a business at home, and I was doing that. But we got to a point where I needed to be out of the home for my mental health. And I needed to be out to make a better paycheck too, because starting a business is really hard, and I wasn't making what I needed it to make, so I needed to be out of the home. And I had a master's degree already, had been a college professor, but I needed something a little bit different hours, so I was willing to take a night job and applied to a rather big chain store to work through the night shift because it was a 24-hour store. And I remember having to go through this process to be able to work there, and then at the end was told that the best that I could get paid was minimum wage, not because I didn't have a lot of experience in that kind of stuff, but because I couldn't point to a paycheck other than the business that I had for the 2 years prior. And I said, but A, I had this business that I owned, that I was running, that was, making money. And, B, I was with my child, helping take care of my child who, had something that was going on. And I was told that doesn't count towards anything. That if I had gone directly to that job from the last job I had been at, I would have been paid almost twice what they were offering me. And it made me sad for all women who ever took time off to be with a child. But as I said, it's particularly disturbing for those of us who stay home with a child out of necessity.
Exactly. And you made a good point, because when I was turned down on a couple of positions, I offered to take a lower level job to show them what I could do.
Yeah.
And their comeback to that was, well, why would you have a graduate degree and be willing to come in here and take a bachelor's level job? What is wrong with you?
You want to be able to feed your kids. That's, it's a title that we all
seriously got that response.
Yeah. It's a difficult economy, and we all need to keep food on the table. But I love the idea, Mari, that in a sense, the biggest advice that I give to parents all the time when they're trying to go back is make sure that you hire yourself first. And it sounds like you did exactly that you hired yourself to write blogs. You hired yourself to be able to be in a position to be speaking at something. And it is amazing the perception shift that comes from an employer when you've hired yourself. It puts you in a different light, and I think it's genius what you did, that you've set yourself up as somebody, you have a forum in which to display your expertise.
Thank you.
And not only is that going to help you in the job market, but it's also helping other people. It's a way of giving back to the community, which takes me back to the fact that the blog is called Taking the Dis Out of Disabled, subtitled Promoting Acceptance and Tolerance for Differently Abled Individuals, one article at a time. It's great. Right now you've got a blog up, Parenting a Child with Asperger's, What I Have Learned from Him. So I think a lot of parents can learn from this. We want to make sure that we know that if they go to NOSAL, which is NOSAL 49 at WordPress.com. Or is it .wordpress.com? It's at WordPress, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Great way for them to be able to get a hold of you. And it sounds like you're available for speaking if somebody would like to have you speak.
I am, and I'm also on Amazon as well.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm so glad. And you just recently, was this the blog that you had written me about? You've got one blog that's getting a lot of attention lately.
I did one on special needs parents have the toughest job in the world.
That's the one.
I published it on March 4th. It is trending. It is going upwards to 6,000 Facebook shares.
Wonderful.
Since March 4th.
Wonderful.
And the one thing about blogging that I would suggest to parents is it's not only a way to help people that are walking the path that you've been on, but it is cathartic in a way.
Yeah. I think it's good therapy to write about whether you're going to share it publicly or not. I think it's really good therapy to write about what you're going through. It's a great way to vent and to be able to organize things, your thoughts in a way so that you look at it and notice the amazing thing that you've done. That having gotten through, and survived, whether it's you just got a diagnosis yesterday with your child and you survived that's something that's worth writing about. But somebody like you, Mari, you've been at this for a while. Your kids are adults, correct?
Yes.
So, it's one of those things you should be congratulated. It is the toughest job, and you've been doing it for a long time.
And in my son's case, and this would be an example of never giving up, as I said, people did not really know what Asperger's was a decade ago. And I kept getting told he was lazy. He just didn't want to try. And for 8 years, I fought for a test. It took me 8 years to get him tested, and I never gave up.
Yeah.
And it turned out that he had processing issues, verbal receptive issues, all types of things. But this is an example of what a special needs parent has to offer. They follow through. They never give up.
Yeah, and the perseverance aspect of it. See, we talk all the time on the show about how employers should hire individuals who are on the spectrum because their work is detail oriented. They care deeply about doing a good job, and they are wonderful at following rules as a rule. But we haven't talked a lot about why people should hire autism parents. Autism parents are people who can persevere in situations that no one else can persevere.
Oh, definitely. I mean, some of the questions they ask you in an interview and they say you're not experienced is quite ironic. Can you handle yourself in crisis?
Yeah.
Well, gee, a parent who has a bolter, for example,
Yeah.
they're cooking dinner and they have a child that can hop a safety gate
yeah.
at the speed that outdoes an Olympic hurdler.
Yes. Yes.
And manage to grab them before they run out the door.
Yeah.
Can they multitask cooking dinner and sensing with the ability of somebody who's psychic that their child is about to go into a meltdown 3 rooms away?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's
drop everything, get in there, calm that child down, and then get back to cooking dinner.
Right. Without burning it. It's so,
exactly. I mean, it's
so
ironic.
true.
All the questions they ask, are you a team player? Have you ever seen a parent trying to maneuver at an IEP meeting with teachers, specialists, professionals,
right,
fighting for what their child needs in a very tactful way, when what they really want to tell these people at that time is quite the opposite of what they're verbalizing?
Yes.
And I won't say it on a show, but
but we all know. We all know exactly what you're thinking.
You know, so you could go on and on about the work experiences that parallel.
Well, I truly applaud what you're doing, Mari. We encourage everybody to check out your blog. And again, you can find that at mnosal, Nosal 49 at wordpress.com.
Correct.
And keep up the good work, Mari, and thank you so much for being willing to move the day on very short notice.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
And I hope that some spring starts coming your way.
40 degrees now. For us, that's warm.
Because you're in Massachusetts, correct?
Correct.
And,
correct. First warm day.
I know
3 feet of snow is melting. I live in Plymouth.
Okay. Well, I know you guys were within a couple of inches of breaking the record for most snowfall during a season. Did you guys make it?
I believe we did.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Normally in Plymouth, because we're right on the ocean, it rains when it snows north.
Uh-huh.
It was quite the opposite this year.
Well, we've been watching on the news here in sunny California and shivering for all of you and wondering why you don't all move here. But I know that.
Well, I was going to make a joke about flying out to your studio rather than doing Skype that I really didn't mind.
Yes. Well, when I was a child, I lived in Lynn, Massachusetts for, I think, a year and a half. So I have fond.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, I have fond, early memories of being in the Boston area. And every once in a while we get an opportunity to visit again. But I don't miss the winter, I have to be honest.
Well, it's funny. As you get older, too, it's losing its novelty.
Yes. Well, that's, come to California. It does not. The sunshine.
I'll be right over.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you. But thank you so much. I've got another guest lined up for a little bit later. But thank you so much, Mari.
Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. We did too. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye. And again, her blog, you can find it at mnosal 49 at wordpress.com. Stick with us. We're going to be back with more Autism Live. And still at the end of the show, we have a very special guest who's never been on here before live. I'm excited and nervous. Stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists.
In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I wanted to take a couple of seconds to address some questions that came in. Somebody said, hi, Shannon, are there any other budget-friendly brands for meats, eggs? Are farmers markets fruits safer to eat or still follow the Dirty Dozen list? This seems to be the most expensive areas. Okay, let's talk about the budget-friendly brands for meats. It really depends on where you are. I mean, there are some big brand names, but you kind of have to do a little bit of research about where it's coming from. And it can be a little bit frightening. I always say start a relationship with whoever the person is who's doing the receiving and or the packing at the store that you're in. And depending on what your finances are, different stores, even the big, sort of chain grocery stores have a store brand. Now, in some cases, that's going to be where you're going to get the least expensive meat, but it may not be the cleanest meat, and you're trying to be as clean as possible. But if you start a relationship with the person who's the head butcher or the head of the meat department, you find information out that sometimes the store brand is cleaner than a bigger brand name, but it really is a case by case. And so you got to start a relationship that's a pleasant relationship and ask questions. For instance, we have discovered that at one of the stores by us, there's a battle between grocery stores right now where they're trying to get business because one store just bought out another store and they're going to turn into this big chain. So this one that didn't get bought out really is trying very hard at our local store. I don't know if they're like this at the whole chain, but chicken, a big brand name chicken, has been on sale the last 2 weeks. And it's a brand that I've researched and that I feel comfortable in the area that we are. I can't speak to it all over the place, but I know where we are, that it's fairly clean. It's not organic, but I feel good about it, right? But it's been on sale really inexpensive, which is a great thing. But we discovered that twice we went to the store and they were out of it because it's, moving off the shelf and going so quickly. And the other thing that I've learned, this is my tip for how to make ends meet and make ends meet well, is that make sure that that's when you go to the butcher and talk talk about it and say, hey, do you have any more of that in the back? Because sometimes they do. And if they don't, they really want to keep your business. So they will offer you something that's of a greater value at the same price. So twice in the last 2 weeks, we've gone to get chicken and they were out of it. And so they replaced it with the high-end organic version at the same price, like ridiculously inexpensive. My husband came home the other day and had something that was normally $17 and it was organic chicken, this big thing of organic chicken that he got for $4. We went back again to get the other thing that was on sale, and they didn't have it, and they gave it to us again. So it's worthwhile to start that relationship with a local person. You'll get information, and when they've got a good deal, you'll know about it. And when the good deal isn't present, a lot of times they'll give you something else because they haven't got the good deal. Eggs is a really difficult thing too, and it requires a little bit of research where you are and talking to different stores. I know we have Trader Joe's here in Southern California, and I've been able to talk to our folks at Trader Joe's. For instance, they have a version at our Trader Joe's, and I don't know if this is all the Trader Joe's stores, but it's like the tier thing, right? That there's their basic egg that's really inexpensive. Then there is an egg that is free range and fed all vegetarian diet, which is important to me, and a clean meat. And then they have the higher end organic that isn't necessarily all vegetarian fed, and then there's the organic vegetarian fed, right? And at my store, getting the one that's vegetarian fed but not organic is very comparable from what I've been told. So that's the one I can get, and it's sort of the second least expensive one. So I feel good about that, but you really have to ask questions about that. Now, in terms of the farmer's market, it really depends, and this is another reason why it's good to get to know the individual farmer. Like, when you go up to somebody and you talk to them and you say, hey, I'm really interested. I try to wait until nobody else is around, so that it's just them talking to me and they're not broadcasting it across the whole farmer's market. And I ask questions and say, hey, can you tell me about your growing practices? We're trying really hard to not put any pesticides into our diet. And I was able to say organophosphates, don't want any of that. What kinds of things do you guys use for pest control? What are you doing? And you can tell when somebody's being honest with you almost always. And especially, and maybe there are a couple of farmers that I've gone to that their answer was a little sketchy, that I wasn't quite sure. But by the third time I came back and asked the question, I was really comfortable that this is not, if they're not looking you in the eye and going, oh no, that's important to me too, and we don't use any of that, it's not really the farmer that you want to buy from. And you do build a relationship. They get to know your child's name. They care about you. We have two lovely ladies at our farmer's market that they put things aside for Jem. They grow cucumbers, and they always have at least one cucumber that's in the shape of a J that he'll come up and they'll say, oh, Jem, you're here. We have your cucumber. And he grins ear to ear. These people get to be like extended family. And so I absolutely think that it's safer. And a lot of those times our farmers, they're very honest and say, I am not organic, but I'm not using any pesticides. This, it's important to me too. It's important to my land that I not use that stuff. And I think it's absolutely as safe as the organic produce because it doesn't have the pesticide, but it isn't labeled organic. And it's so much cheaper than buying at the store most of the year, except for the time of year when the bounty is in, where, everything is so inexpensive at the grocery store. That's why I do say, keep in mind what's seasonal, and eat seasonal. It's actually good for us to eat seasonal. And when nothing's in season, like it's been scarce the last couple of weeks, it's a good time to do the frozen stuff at Costco or Sam's. All right, somebody else asked a question. You asked a question about fish oil, and we're having Lisa Ackerman next week on for a new show that she's starting with us from Taka. I'm going to let her answer that because fish oil I'm not so knowledgeable on. But somebody else had a question for Dr. Tarbox, which I'm going to also leave for him. But I just want to say you wanted to know about how to teach how to wipe. Let me go back up to this question. 5-year-old. Yeah, I think depending on the child, and if they're already potty trained to a certain amount and you want to teach how to wipe for the bowel movement, I will tell you how this was done with our therapists. And please, this is going to put graphic images in your head that you're going to want to wash your brain afterwards, but it works. You go and you get some hot dog buns. And you get a jar of peanut butter that you have no intention of eating and that you're not going to feed to your child. And if your child's allergic to peanuts, you're going to get something else, right? But you take and you spread the peanut butter on the hot dog buns, and you tell your child, we're going to play a game, and you don't tell them it's about toilet training. You don't tell them it has anything to do with it, but you're actually practicing the wipe maneuver. And you're either going to give them baby wipes or tissue or something, and you've got however many hot dog buns, and you do maybe 4 at a time, and you put the peanut butter in and say, now wipe all of the peanut butter out. It's just a game, and we're not going to eat it, and you take it and you throw it all away afterwards because you don't want to link up this with eating it, right? But they're wiping all the peanut butter because you're teaching the motion of the wiping where they can see it in front of them, right? Because when it comes time to wipe, they don't actually get to see it. So you're teaching the motion, you've got the visual. We're not telling them that that's what we're doing. It's just a game. Wipe all the peanut butter out. Now, is it going to get totally clean on the hot dog buns? No, but don't worry about that because we're not linking that part of it up. As you take all of that, you throw away, and then a couple of days later, you're in the bathroom and you hand over hand do the motion for them, and you have them look at the tissue to see, is it clean, that we, will do the wipe until there is no brown on the tissue, right? But you've already taught the skill of wiping with the peanut butter and the hot dogs. I know, it just makes you want to gag even thinking about it, right? Spoils peanut butter for you for a little while, and hot dog buns too. But it gets the job done. They've learned the skill of wiping with the visual. Then you take that away, and I don't know why it just moves from one child to another. That's how they taught it to my son. But we'll ask Dr. Tarbox next week and see if he's got some other things for you as well. All right, we are going to take a break, and we have our very special guest. My son is going to join me here on the show live for just a few minutes after these messages. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm excited but nervous because in the studio with me right now for the first time live, we're live on the show. We're live. This is my son, Jem.
Hello. Oh, okay.
You're not supposed to look up there. You're not
I'm looking at the wrong camera.
Yes, you are looking at the wrong camera. So you were here with us today because we had something special that we needed to do this morning before the show started.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell the folks at home what you were doing this morning?
It is yoga.
Yoga. Had you ever done much yoga before this morning?
Some.
You've
when
done
we
a
had
little- you've done a
when
little
we
bit.
had an old Wii.
Yes, we used to do yoga. I know it's kind of silly being here and seeing yourself up on the big monitor, but don't look at it.
I know.
So, yeah, you and I had done a little bit of yoga on the Wii, but not very much. So you did a little bit of yoga with Sue Cho this morning.
Mhm.
What did you think? Did you like it?
I did like it. It was very fun. We have complimented how she is good at
Yes, she was very good at it, wasn't she? She's a very good teacher. You know, she's somebody who travels the world and works with kids with autism.
Oh, really?
And she does yoga with them a lot of the time.
Okay.
Do you know why she does yoga with kids?
I don't know.
What do you know? What yoga is supposed to? Why yoga is supposed to be good for you?
Yoga is pretty much just the calm as well exercise.
Yeah, it's exercise and it calms you, absolutely. So for people who watch the show, I talk about you a little bit on the show.
I do know.
I know, and sometimes you don't like it when I talk about you. I'm trying to
My
be better
ears
about
do ring a lot. I'm just telling you that.
Yes, I'm sure that they do. But I brag about you usually and about how well you're doing. And I talk about the fact that when you were very little, you were diagnosed with autism. And I know you don't remember a lot about that. But do you remember when therapists used to come to the house and work with you? You
I do remember a little bit.
Like, who do you remember? What therapists do you remember?
Amy, pretty much.
You remember Amy. Amy was a lot of fun. Anybody else that you remember?
Peter.
Peter. Do you remember though when, because you know Peter now, but do you remember when he used to come to the house and do therapy with you?
Yes, I do.
Like, what do you remember? What do you remember him doing with you?
Playing a board game, pretty much.
Okay.
That's it.
And the reason why I ask that is that sometimes people think that therapy is hard on a kid or that it makes them miserable. And I just, wanted to see what your first memory is. And I love it that your first memory is playing a board game because a lot of what you guys did was play. I don't know if you've heard me talk about when Peter first used to come to the house and play with you, you'd play paper swords. And you'd pretend that you guys were Peter Pan and Hook. To play together.
I don't remember that.
I'm sure because you just turned 3, so I doubt that you would remember that. But I think it's interesting that what you do remember is a good memory, being able to play a board game. What do you remember doing with Amy?
What I do remember is looking at pictures, great pictures, and that's pretty much it. It has been a long time.
It has been a long time. It's been like almost 3-4. It's been 4 years since you've had any kind of a therapy, so that's a long time. But yeah, you would look at pictures sometimes. You would learn through pictures and do things like that. But you guys built things. You and Amy used to dance a lot. You don't remember that? You do?
I don't.
I have video of you and Amy playing the SpongeBob DVD game.
Oh.
Where you have to do the dance part in it.
Oh, yeah.
Amy loved to play that game with you. So if somebody's worried about their kid doing therapy and that it's miserable for their kid, what would you say to them?
I would say that it does improve, and it should actually help them out.
Yeah.
As well, it is actually pretty much fantastic if they do, and as well they should have a good time.
Yes, I agree
if
with
they
all those
do, it's pretty much that they want to hurry up something.
Okay. So you liked it when therapy, it was okay, but you liked it when it was over?
Well, it's just like, it took like a... Well, before then, there were like a few things, like kids like thought an hour was like one day.
You thought it was an hour was one day?
Sort of.
Okay. So it felt like it took a long time. All right. So tell everybody how old you are now.
I am age 11. Oh wait, where's the camera?
Camera's that one.
I am 11-year-old. In like a few months, I will be 12. It will also be graduation day, and I will be in junior high.
Yes. Are you excited about going to junior high?
Mm-hmm.
It's a big, big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you're more excited, and we have to keep mommy from crying all the time about the fact that you're going to be a big boy going to junior high. And you're incredibly tall for your age. So people, when you tell people that you're 11, do they believe that?
Not that much.
How old did they think you were this weekend when you were at a birthday party?
They thought there's like a thing where like there's like two teams. There's two teams.
Yeah.
And one's like 7th graders, and then one's like below. And like someone actually thought I was in the 7th grader. Actually, almost everyone in the party, besides the people that knew me,
they thought you were a 7th grader. Well, that's good. Part of it is because you're so tall, and part of it is you're so mature. That's a good thing. It's not till later on in life that it's a bad thing when people think you're older than you are. But when you're 11, it's still good. And I ask you this all the time, and you hate it when I ask you, but what do you think you want to be when you grow up now?
I don't really know.
Oh, that's a good answer. When you were little and you first could talk, you used to say that you wanted to be a rocket engineer. Now you're pretty sure you don't want to be a rocket engineer anymore?
Pretty much.
Okay. Then you wanted to work with robots. Have you decided you don't want to work with robots?
Probably.
Okay. Then you wanted to work for Google.
That might happen.
That might
will
happen.
Definitely happen.
Okay. And now you're interested in doing YouTube videos.
Yes, I have. The same friend that had his birthday this week has actually made roller coaster videos and also other games. I mean, it's good.
Yeah. So maybe you guys will do some YouTube videos at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about, is this a hard thing to do, to sit and talk on live internet?
Yes, it is.
Is it? Why is this hard?
Because when I look at the screen up there,
It's a little distracting. It's definitely distracting. I have to tell
but I
that to
see
all
myself looking in the other direction.
Yes, and it's a weird thing. That's why I told you not to look up there. But I tell you whenever I can think of it at home how proud I am of you. But this is great for me to have an opportunity to tell you in front of everybody how proud I am of you. So, but I talk all the time on this show about the fact that I'm not a perfect parent. Right? We're all we're all he's gonna be kind here. But so
You're a perfect parent. You do know that.
I'm not a perfect parent, and you're the first person to tell people, and you tell me all the time that I'm not a perfect parent. But so tell me one thing that you like about how I parent. One good thing that I do as a parent.
The one good thing you do is...
There's only one? I'm just saying pick one, but don't act as if there's only one.
There's like...
Is there more than one?
Yes, there is.
Okay, good. Thank goodness. All right. Now he's going to get the TVs. Okay. But so tell one good thing as a parent that I do.
One good thing is that you do care for me, and...
Yeah. It's okay. What else? You don't have to be embarrassed. I do occasionally take care of you. We talked about it this morning that sometimes I do it too much, right?
Right.
Sometimes I baby you too much.
Yeah.
Okay. What's a thing that I need to be working on as a parent? What can I do better as a parent?
What you can do better, I'm not going to say anything bad, but what you can do better, I don't really know what to say.
You can say.
You do so good.
Oh, well, that's sweet. But I'm not, sometimes mommy is not the best parent, especially at night, right? I've told them before that I get miserable crabby at night when it's bedtime, don't I? And then I'm not the nicest person.
Now you put that online.
Yeah, I tell them that all the time.
Oh,
that it's the
really?
truth. I told them the other day about the time that I threw a hissy when we went shoe shopping. Do you remember that? When I laid down in the middle of the shoe store and it kind of upset you and Daddy that I threw a tantrum.
One time you actually passed out in the store. I'm not saying she didn't get very mad that she just like laid on the floor like that. She actually lost her breath.
And you took good care of me when they called the ambulance, and he took very good care of me and told them all the information. That was a scary day, though, wasn't it? But you did a good job. You're a fabulous boy, and I appreciate you. I'm awfully lucky to get to be your mom. So we're at the end of the show here. Oh, apparently I don't get to hold hands for very long. All right, good. We're here at the end of the show. Wanted to take a couple of seconds to talk about, got an exciting lineup for you guys next week. And 2 big weeks of programming that we have left before we get to World Autism Awareness Day. Do you have plans for World Autism Awareness Day, Mr. Jem?
Painting the house blue, and that's all.
Well, we will light it up blue, but you and I have a book that's going to be coming out right around World Autism Awareness Day.
Oh, boy.
Yes. That Jem and I, when he was younger, wrote a book together. My name is Jem. I have autism. It's a children's picture book, and it's going to be coming out sometime around then. But Jem also, right before World Autism Awareness Day, is going to run his first 5K in the... Act Today is doing a military run to benefit military families. Do you want to tell people to sponsor you?
Yes, we would like you to sponsor Team Always Sumarama.
It's Jem's Always Sumarama team.
It's Always Sumarama, Mom.
All right. Well, I can't apparently say it. But anyway, you can do that. There's a thing on our Facebook right now. You can sponsor Jem and our team, or you can join our team and be a virtual runner with us. We invite you to do that. Nancy also has a team, Wyatt's Warriors. So Wyatt's going to have a team as well. And maybe we'll see if Wyatt wants to run the 5K with you.
Right there. Oh, wait.
There it is.
The screen's
there is the
flipped.
link. There it is. So you can see, and you can start your own team there as well. We're almost out of time. How much time do we have, Kelby? 5 seconds. So I'll see you on Tuesday. Thanks for letting my kid join me. Give your kiddo a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.